Hello, hello, this is Brendan Schumacher, and in this episode I'm working on a comic page for my comic The Bostabok, which is about dwarves and based on the game Dwarf Fortress. I think I'm just finding now that I have to restart this software because it is in the GIMP, and if you're a GIMP learner and you're on Windows, you certainly know my frustration. Sometimes things don't work exactly as you want them to, albeit a free software has a tendency to be buggy. And so I have to close that file and reopen it and get back to section 1, page 7. And I had to open the file back up again. I didn't want you to see some of the stuff on the screen, so I might have just blanked that out and showed you the comic page I was working on while I did that. But that is kind of counter to my original plan here, which, well, we'll see what happens. I was actually planning to just upload this to wherever, be it YouTube or Vimeo, as raw footage, because I just I had a plan for it. When I say plan, a service plan, a license plan for the software that I'm using. It requires a monthly payment for the pro version of it, and I currently just realized that I'm overdue for that, and I don't know if I want to pay for that anymore. I don't know where that accent came from. So, I might just go ahead and not pay for that, if that makes sense. And then, so I'm drawing while I'm talking here, so excuse me if I'm a little slow and buggy. The thing is, I'll just need a new software, or I'll have to revert to. I can still use the free version of the software. The software I'm referring to is actually Lightworks, and it is a good software. I like it. If you don't know it, you can look it up for editing video, such as the one you're seeing now. In case you didn't know, this is video, VIDEO, video. Some people might not have known that. We have some infants who watch the show sometimes. They're drooling and farting, and they do defecate on themselves sometimes. But who am I to judge? You know, I'm drawing cartoons and comics and stuff. I normally do. Well, I want to do. I'll be perfectly honest. I want to just sometimes not do what I'm doing right now, which is drawing a comic book. It's very hard. It takes a lot of work. At first, you have the inspiration, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be great," and you have an idea, and you're creative, right? That's why we do this kind of stuff. You must have a creative bone or a creative nerve somewhere in your body that says you got to do something. And so you get that inspiration and that drive in the beginning, but then the difference between, well, I'm just going to be a little harsh now, perhaps, hopefully not too serious, but you have the difference between people who do things and people who don't. And the people who do things, you'll often come to find, they are willing to put up with that, the hard part, which is actually doing something. As funny as that might sound, it's actually very challenging. So when you get to the part like this, where you have to do something, it can be annoying. You know what? I just traced that whole guy, and now I'm thinking maybe. No, I'll just leave him like that. In reflection, I definitely should have done him in a finer, thinner line, and this guy in a thicker line. That might make sense later, because when you want things to look like they're off in the distance with ink, well, there's many ways to go about it, but you definitely want things to be lighter, have less contrast, or what in the art theory or color theory world they would call values that have less value. And so one way to do that is to have thinner lines on things. When you're doing cartooning like this, it can make something seem like it's in the background. And I don't feel like opening the other page right now. I might, if I do end up using video software, I'll just put something on a screen while I'm saying that. You might be looking at it right now even. I do want to edit the video. It's not good to not edit the video, but I mean, it's okay. There's many things that need to be done. I clear my throat a lot, and it's good to, if I were to take the time to work the sound a little bit and get noise reduction. But even with that, I mean, I'm just trying to get anything done here. I haven't put up a video in probably like 2 months or more, and there's reasons for that. But having all kinds of complications. The video, or not the video, the audio headset which I'm speaking to you with right now is broken. It just happened like yesterday. Isn't it ironic that I would just decide to make this video today? It apparently is still working. I just tested it, but I want to just plug it in because it needs to charge. It's a wireless. The brand is called Plantronics. It's a wireless headset that has noise cancellation, microphone, and the Mickey Mouse earmuffs, which cover your whole ears. I actually don't like those. It makes me look silly, but it's comforting to block the universe's noise out sometimes if you're doing something like, listening to music while you're drawing or playing a game or something. You can really zone out. So I do appreciate it. But now they're not broken in the way they don't work. I want to plug it in because it needs to charge, and then I come back, I pick it up, and it's like dangling. So somewhere between me putting it down, plugging it in, and walking to the other room, something happened. I don't know why. It's not like I was drunk at the time. Even if I was drunk, I don't break things. Not that I drink that much. Well, I do, but trying to lay off the booze these days. It's not good for you. So it's broken, but it works. I guess that's the summary of that. What I'm doing here is just starting off with the foreground objects, and I use the word object. I'm referring to the characters here. Sometimes when you draw things there are no characters, but I happen to have characters, and regardless of what it is, I'm not going to discriminate. Artistically speaking, everything is an object, and so right now my foreground objects are characters. I'm drawing them out first to make sure I get nice thick bold lines to have them pop, and I just decreased the brush size to about 10 pixels, which was, since I'm using the pressure, the tablet's pressure feature. If you press hard, I guess that's about 10 pixels there, but I usually scrape lightly on the canvas, so it's actually just like a few pixels, but I can push hard and get thicker lines when I want. And so that original, and this is on like a 3050 pixel by 4000 pixel canvas, which is what I always use, and it seems to fit the standard for comic sizes. However, if you were to go get printed, note that I have these guides, and that's where they would cut the page to to have it fit. 'Cause you always notice, like actual comic books, if you ever buy comic books, I don't know if it's getting to be a rare thing, or even if you have like on a tablet, like a Kindle or something, the comic pages are scaled to fit a rather skinny dimension. And so, but you can see here now I'm starting to work on this background. There's going to be some foliage and mountains in the background and stuff. So anyway, so comics, the resolution is actually quite skinny. I think that's the word I'm looking for. So it's like, this is regular standard portrait. It would be like a 8.5 by 11 paper size, like a letter, or your stationary letter paper size, or office paper, or something like that. But what happened is, when they went to make original comics, and I happen to know a lot about this because I was in the printing business for quite some time. I worked in Manhattan at as a blueprint printer, or engineers. I have a lot of engineers in Manhattan. Also, I was going to mention in the beginning, I'm using a well, I have a door open, and you might get some outside noise. Hopefully that will be some nice ambient sound for you, not distraction. This is all just off the cuff. I was just like, I need to make a video, make it. Just forget about all of the standards and stuff like that, because I can't be bothered right now. And so yeah, I worked in the print industry, and then I went to a company whose name I won't name. Not famous, but that's why I don't want to name them even. Just a no-name company that had more money than I should have, and they also were engineers, and so I did printing with them as well. And something you learn about paper, and I've also printed my own comics, like self-published, and I went through all that trouble of figuring out how to self-publish a comic book on actual physical paper with a cover and all that stuff. So what happens with paper, the reason that comics, I'm pretty sure this is something that can't be argued, but back in the day, the sizes of paper are all what I call static. It means they're set in stone. It's not like you just go in to a printer and say, I need 1,000 prints of something that's 4 by 10 inches, and I go, oh, okay. Because what they're going to tell you is, well, we have a paper size that is 8.5 by 11 might be their smallest paper size, and then they'll say, here's what's going to happen is we can put we can fit 3 or 4 of those little prints that you want onto one paper, and then we'll cut them for you. So one 8.5 11 might make how many 4 by 8, 2 or 3. Yeah, I'm not in a frame of mind to do the math on that, but you get my point. So if you have a bunch of small things you want to print out, you print them on a big paper and then just chop them out, and they have professional paper cutters in there and all that stuff. So, but what happens when you get an odd size, right, is that you waste a lot of paper. So to make an easy analogy, let's say I wanted to print something like a flyer for a restaurant, and it's exactly like instead of 8.5 11, it happens to be 7 by 10 inches. So obviously 7 by 10 inches, it's small enough to fit on 8.5 by 11 paper, but then you're going to want to crop it. You want to trim the excess paper, because you only want to print to be 7 by whatever I just said was 7 by 10 or something like less than 8.5 by 11, and so all that paper that you trimmed is just going to go to waste. Now, because of that, you still have to pay for the paper, and people care about things like that. It ends up being, if you have to make like 1 million, let's say for example with Marvel Comics, when they go to print a Spider-Man, obviously they're going to print like, I don't know, 100,000, million, a lot, depending on the popularity and the target audience and expected sales and all that stuff, the business aspect. And so, and I've actually done all this research, it's true. So like with that in mind, you can understand why these what happens is they take not 8.5 by 11, but the what do you call it, I guess it's double 8.5 by 11, so it'd be like 16 by 11 paper, which is like the next size up, and fold it in half to make a book. So you fold it in half, you still gotta trim some of the edges off, because there's a bleed in or not necessarily nowadays, but when they're doing printing back in the early days, the prints were not perfect. They didn't go right to the tippy edge of the paper, and so I don't even know if now that they can do that. So the print would maybe get a little bit fuzzy towards the edges. And I keep drawing this line over and over. I can't get it. Even still, I don't like that. Is that because... Hold on. Anyway, she's small. By the time it's all done, she's, yeah, like yay big. Okay, so the paper, you get a big paper, you fold it in half, and the edges are still going to be rough, so you have to like cut it. You have a paper cutter there, or there'll be a big machine that after all the books come out, it'll chop the edges off, so it has nice even side. And even in the earlier days, the edges of the paper itself would be rough, because the standards, like now you can buy a big block, a pile of like 8.5 by 11 paper, and get a ruler out, and it'll all be perfectly 8.5 by 11. But if you go back in history, the paper would have been rougher. This is like, unnecessary knowledge now that I'm probably talking about. But when it's all done, and you want the edge of the book to look pretty and smooth and stuff, then you cut it, whether it be a pamphlet or whatever. And you just chop off the extra stuff. So what happens is, this is the size that's what made the comic book size as it is, was all of that nonsense. The history of printing. Somebody might have been wondering why the professional comic book artists they decided to use this particular dimension for comic books. Well, they didn't. The decision was made for them by the limitations of printing at the time, and it just stuck like that. Because you can see for many generations now, even children's books, they have all different sizes and shapes. So it's not that it have to be like this, but children's books probably have a more guaranteed market, such as children. Whereas comics, in their history, if you read it, has always been a very trying, very struggling. Not like today. If you look at Marvel and Batman or DC and all that stuff, and they're like millionaires because they make movies and all this stuff. That's all new. Wasn't so long ago in history, and for me, this would be like my parents' generation when they were young. Things like Batman and Superman were probably still relatively new. I guess by then they'd already had. So I'd have to check my facts on all that. But I mean, the simple fact that Stan Lee, the founder of Marvel Comics, is still alive, and well, I'm still alive. So it wasn't that long ago in history that a lot of this stuff started up. When Stan Lee was, before him there was no Spider-Man, and he's not the creator of Batman, but if he is, I don't know if he collaborated with somebody at DC, but he before him that stuff wasn't there. So I don't like the way that turned out at all. Anyway, I'm just babbling. I'm drawing some of this stuff. So I'm gonna make a video. And actually, that's not bad. I think it's some interesting historical stuff for some people who might not know, and people who did know that already, a little refresher. I might even be wrong about certain facts, or you have more facts to add to my facts. You can always write me or put it in the comments or something. I don't want to argue about anything. If I was wrong, I don't care. I'll tell you that much. This is just the world according to me. The world is flat. I don't care. I could be wrong. So, yeah, that's it. I'm going to cut this video here because I don't even know if it's going to work. And we'll see you later. This comic will be coming out very soon. The first section will be coming out soon. And, yeah, so I don't really care about likes and stuff. A lot of people, end the video like, yeah, like me. You don't have to like me. But if you're interested, well, I guess likes are good for the video. Actually, watching the video and sharing it is probably better if you think it's worth sharing. If not, then don't, because birds of a feather and all that. If you don't like it, I don't want you to share it with friends who probably also wouldn't like it. But if you do like it, then your friends might like it too. So do share. That kind of philosophy. And that's about it. I'll be focusing on this comic for the next month or two or more. I keep trying to focus my mind on just this, and so I can, well, finish it. And I only want to work on this comic really, and probably for the rest of this year, or at least until the comic's done. And then I'll do some more illustrations of the other style I was doing before, and then I'm going to start a script for another comic. So it's all one step at a time. It's a long time. It's a long process. And in the next video, I'll go into more detail about how I set up all these pages and stuff. Maybe. Yeah, if you ever watch me, you know not to quote me on anything. But that was my intention, was to start making some videos about this comic process, how I do it, and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. For that reason, do subscribe if you want to get a notification, or go to my website. Links are below, and follow me somewhere. And that's it. See ya. Have a good day.